Hi, you guys. How's everybody doing? I am tired. I'm a tired little lamb. But I I got these journals done. I you guys a lot of you guys probably know that I have a thing for cooking pamphlets. Like well, not always just cooking, but like um sometimes like the vintage ones from the like 30s, 40s, 20s, that you may have gotten with like a kitchen appliance or something. A lot of times those had a bunch of recipes in them. I don't know. I just love them. I have a thing for them. I have like a huge drawer full of them, and I haven't made pamphlet journals for quite a while. So I just decided, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. And last year, early in the year, I had a bunch of pamphlet journals that I did, and but they weren't necessarily cooking ones. They were all just kind of weird, obscure like pamphlets. So anyway, I really love making these, and I just think it's a really great way to sort of preserve that feeling that from that era. So anyway, and then what I thought about doing was sort of like a concept journal type of thing, right? And so I just kept having this story running through my head about um, a lady who was like a school teacher, retired school teacher. So, she's like in her 60s, and her husband had passed away not that long ago. So she still had a whole bunch of, his stuff in the house. And, um, he, I don't know how he died, but she's single. And so, um, so she still has a whole bunch of his stuff in his office. He was an accountant. So he worked at home a lot, and so had lots and lots of paper and things like that still in the house. And she hasn't quite been able to get herself to get rid of all of that stuff. And plus, she really has a thing for paper, sort of like I do. And so here I'm just going for it, right? um, so yeah, so since she recently retired, money's tight. She's living on, Social Security. She does have a pension through the school system, so she gets, she's okay, but she's really got to watch her money. And so since Christmas is coming, um, she's her well, first of all, her name is Goldia. Um, and since Christmas is coming, she's starting to panic because she's got all these friends that she likes to play bridge with, and she also likes to go to bingo with, and then she's also in like a quilting club. And um, so she wanted to make something for all these ladies that have been her friends for decades. And she's just like, Goldia is sort of like a, domestic goddess type of person. And she's just got the sweetest, most gentle personality. She taught third grade for years and years. So she sort of had a tendency to talk to everybody like they were in third grade, but everybody sort of forgave her for that. But anyway, so since she was such a domestic goddess, and she had, in her younger years, um, was really into cooking, she had collected, she just sort of hung on to things. And I guess you could say she was a little bit of a hoarder, but she was a very organized hoarder. And so she always knew where things were and that kind of stuff, but she just couldn't bring herself to throw things away. Um, I guess she was probably about 70. um, anyway, so she wanted to give something to these ladies that she'd been friends with for decades. And, since money's tight, she decided, okay, you know what? I've heard about these junk journals, and so she decided that she was just gonna go for it. And so she watched a bunch of videos on YouTube and started pulling out stuff. And she saw somebody using a pamphlet to make a journal, and it just like light bulb went off, So anyway, so she pulled out all of her cooking pamphlets and decided to make journals for her friends for Christmas presents. So that's what these are. And as I go through them, I'll kind of talk about some of the different elements that are in them. They do have some similar elements, obviously, cooking and that kind of stuff, but and a lot of the same papers or whatever. I pulled, so that's my little story. Anyway, it's really hard for me to stay in character for that, but that's kind of what I think about when I think about junk journaling and making junk journals. And I've talked about this before, but that's kind of the mindset that I put myself in when I'm making a journal. I try to kind of play make-believe and sort of pretend like when you're using ephemera and things like that, or laces and fabrics and, pamphlets and stuff like that, papers. I'm trying to think of a reason that I'm using that. And the reason that I'm using it isn't just because I have a drawer full of it, but it's because it has some sort of meaning, or that, if I were Goldia and I needed to make, Christmas presents for my friends, how could I do that, with just things that I have around the house? And also sort of attach some memories to a lot of those things too, so that there was some symbolic meaning to the elements of the journal, So anyway, boy, I just kind of went off there. So Goldia happens to be my grandmother. And I just have this real affinity for her because she was a school teacher, and she was a saver, and she probably would have been into scrapbooking if she had been in that, whatever. But she saved all of this stuff, like from my dad's childhood, that I like to use. And so anyway, I have a bunch of pictures that have my grandmother in them. And so I've used these a lot, these pictures with my grandma, and you guys probably seen them or heard me talk about them. But anyway, so I just printed off a few of them that had her in it. And a lot of them are her with her sisters, and some are her with her kids. And there's one of her with her class at school. She lived in the country, and so she had like a one room kind of like all grades together schoolhouse thing. But anyway, so I did these little frames, and I've done these before with, on a smaller ones, but this is basically my way of sort of copying a, like a color slide, how you use those color slide frames. So I just kind of make my own, and I cut them out on the scan and cut, and then, it just folds in half, and I put acetate and the picture behind it and glue it around the edges. So anyways, my grandma's in each one of these pictures. So there's a picture of her on each journal. And then I was just kind of going with like a little bit of a sewing sort of theme too. So, and I'm sorry, this video is going to be super long, you guys, but it's just, there's just so many things I want to talk about with these journals. So, anyway, so I had some sewing notions, some old sewing notions, and I had scanned just like a label from some cotton sewing thread, and this was the shape of it. And so I just cut a bunch of that shape out on the scan and cut, and on craft paper, and glued them together. And I just thought it'd be really cool to add some kind of fiber as a charm on each journal. And you know, just to kind of pull in that sewing theme. And so it's pretty stiff. So it's a couple layers of craft cardstock. And then I just wrapped some white sari silk around it, put a little eyelet and attached it to the ball chain. So that I'm just talking about the charms. And then I used a bunch of my little tiny tags. So these are little tags that I've made in live streams before. And so I just kind of like to, you know, hang on to little strips of file folders and things like that. And I just make them into little tags. So, and then since these are gifts for Goldia's friends, and I was going to write out this whole story, and I was going to put it in each journal and that kind of stuff. But you know what? I just got to get this stuff done. So I didn't do that. But, you know, maybe next time. Who knows? Anyway, so since these are for her friends, each one has a name. And it is for whoever the name is on there. So this one is Leonora. And so let me just kind of flip through one of these. And actually, I think what I'm going to do is sort of go through each one. There are 16 of them, but I just want you guys to just get an idea of what's in here. So, oh, and then let me say real quickly, I also pulled a whole bunch of ephemera from my drawer. So I added some smaller, smaller pamphlets that I didn't take apart into each journal. So each journal's got at least one like small pamphlet in it. That's a vintage pamphlet. Okay. So, so that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, so all of them are different. But anyway, so the cover, I basically, you know, they're just stapled together originally. And so I took them apart, took the staples out. Oh, and then I wanted to use tons of that feed sack fabric. So, you know, so I just kind of went nuts with that. And I used a ton of the old feed sack fabric that I got recently. And I've had it too. I've had a bunch too, but getting some new stuff just sort of inspired me to use it. Anyway, so I did that on the spine. I made a scrappy trim sort of thing. I stitched a whole bunch of little squares of the feed sack onto just some cotton strips, and then I used that on the spine. So then I actually glued the cover of the pamphlet onto just like a brown paper bag. Okay, I glued all of them onto brown paper bag paper. And then I glued each one and then cut those out and then glued each one onto a piece of heavy craft cardstock. Okay, so it's like 3 layers of paper. And then I glued that onto fabric. Okay, so just like some thin cotton fabric. And some of the fabric that I use is actually really aged. It's kind of discolored and kind of funky because it was fabric that came with an unfinished quilt, a vintage quilt that was unfinished. So there was a bunch of like yardage with the quilt that I got off of eBay. So anyway, and then I can't remember. I think I used some tea-dyed fabric too. Anyway, so 3 layers of paper, including the cover, and then also a layer of fabric. And then, you know, obviously I stitched all the way around. Used the pinking shears around the edges just because I thought it looks really cute. So you can kind of see the fabric coming through from the, you know, from the front. Hang on. I just gotta, one second. Anyway, had to just reply real quick to a message. Good morning, Tracie. Anyway, so where was I? Okay, so that's the cover. So they're real sturdy, you know. These covers are real sturdy, and you know, mainly I wanted to make sure that they were gonna, you know, be around for a long time, but I also wanted to make sure that they were, you know, had some substance, you know, but they're still flexible. Okay, so that's why I like using the fabric instead of just like using more and more paper or gluing them onto some kind of hard like surface. I like to use fabric because then they stay flexible. Anyway, so then one of the quilts that I took apart had a bunch of little, like, you know, squares like this. So I actually glued this, I actually stitched the squares onto squares of craft cardstock, and then I glued that onto the cover. So you don't see that stitching coming through, but you see the stitching on here. I hope that makes sense. And then I spent a good couple of days actually just making tags and reproducing ephemera for these. And I don't really like to do that much, but I have so much stuff that you know, I just kind of want to hoard it a little longer. So I scanned some recipe cards and stuff, and you know, reproduced those and just made some tags and ephemera. So I try to stay in that sort of era from like the 20s to through like the 50s. You know, I know that's a big era, but that would kind of cover Goldia's, you know, lifespan when she was young and she was cooking and she was crafting a lot and doing that kind of stuff, making quilts for her kids and that kind of thing. So anyway, some order forms and little receipts. And this is from a grocery store. This is a thread label from a wooden spool. Some old wallpaper, and then just a butter, you know, price advertisement sort of thing. And then each one's got an oversized, like, this is actually more of like a real actual size bingo card, but it's an oversized sort of tag, right? So I thought this would be great to use as a writing board if you wanted to. So each one's got a bingo card that I just, you know, I glued it onto some cardstock. I love craft paper, you guys. And then stitched all around the edges. And then I added an oversized tab on the top. And I think those oversized tabs are really cool. And then I just, you know, used some, I went back through, I've gone through each of these journals about a dozen times, just adding things. But so I added some postage stamps. This is another pamphlet. I took apart a whole bunch of other pamphlets and added pages from those into these journals. Some old grid paper. And, you know, since I told you her husband was an accountant, she's got lots and lots of like ledger type paper, guest checks, and then she really has an affinity for butterflies. And so, you know, as most of her friends do too. And then just, you know, some advertisement. Wanted to make sure there was lots of writing space and lots of things to write on. So there's a real heavy kind of cooking theme throughout all of the journals, but there's also little splashes of nature and kind of fun, whimsical stuff like the popcorn bags. So this is the tag. This is the label that inspired this, right? So this is the actual little tag that I made and just printed on both sides. So, and then some glassine paper. Her husband was a stamp collector, and so a lot of his stuff that he used in stamp collecting found its way into these journals too. And then also her son was my uncle. Her son was really into music, and he was in band and stuff in high school and into college, and he used to write a lot of music, and so she has a lot of that type of like composition paper. And of course, you know, some knitting and crocheting, ephemera. This is from an old vintage reader. And they did travel quite a bit when they were young, before they had too many kids. So there's a little bit of travel type ephemera in here, some maps and things like that. And just, you know, little memories from when the kids were little Monopoly cards and or Monopoly money and game cards where, you know, the game board's falling apart, but she hung on to all the other little pieces just because they mean something, you know. And you know, why would you throw that stuff away? So, and then so you'll notice I used a lot of the feed sack fabric as tabs. I didn't use paper tabs in these. I used all fabric. So this is one of my favorite pamphlets. This Sun-Kissed Orange Juice pamphlet. So this is just tissue from a pattern. It's actually one of those iron-on applique patterns. And I stitched a couple layers together and made some pages and some gardening books, and then just kind of put some labels here and there kind of randomly all around. This was like a almanac type of pamphlet. You guys see this okay? Sorry. And then since they actually did live in Pullman, you know, had to have the city of Pullman paper. They didn't really live in Pullman, but little Rolodex cards. You know, nobody uses Rolodex cards anymore for actual like addresses and stuff, but she was very frugal, and so she always bought things, you know, by the case because you get a better deal, you know. So she had tons of Rolodex cards, and her husband, you know, in the office and stuff, he used them. But and the little guest checks and alteration tickets and stuff like that. So this is why I say that each one is different, because I took apart so many pamphlets and used pages from those in, you know, the different journals. And so since there's 16 of the journals, obviously like one pamphlet wouldn't spread out across all of the journals. So, you know, like there was a lemon one too. So this is just an envelope from a stationery set that Goldia had, and she'd used up all the paper a long time ago, but she hung on to the envelopes because they were so pretty. She liked the colors. So those are just folded in half, kind of upside down, and then cut the end off, stitched it closed so it wouldn't, you know, come apart. And then you got a little pocket right here, and then you can just add tickets and stuff in here, little receipts and things like that. More ledger. And then obviously she was into gardening because she had tons of like flower books and things like that. And then there was a, you know, her Goldia and her husband would hire kids to come and do work, or they, you know, like to since they lived in a small community often, the you know, they knew through the grapevine people that that knew how to do all kinds of different things. Like, so if they needed plumbing work done or something like that, they could call on somebody in the neighborhood. And so that's where these came in. And then oh, actually this was the jewelry one. So skip that. But the currency envelopes. So she always paid people with currency envelopes. These are actually jewelers envelopes. But anyway, buying in bulk, you know, you got a whole case of stuff, you better use it up. I don't know if I'm even going to upload this video. I'm getting silly now. More wallpaper. And lots of scrapbook paper too. See, I just added little, you know, labels here and there and stamps and stuff. Trying to find in this one, I know I added, oh, and then printed off just some public domain images from seed packs, okay, and then just folded those up into envelopes and paper clipped them in. Oh boy, okay, there's another little recipe card tag, and then added some vintage rickrack on the edges of each one. So okay, so this one is Lenora, okay, and then So there's basically like 4 different sizes that these sort of came out, you know. Yeah, this was one of the larger ones. So sort of like small, medium, large, and extra large. So there's 2 small ones, and then, well, anyways, I'll just keep showing you. So I don't want to show you that one again. So these 2 are both Fisher's pamphlets. This one is Blanche, and I love the cover of this journal. I just think it's so pretty. I love that orange, and this one too. These are probably 2 of my favorites right here. And I love the feed sack fabric on the spine. And anyway, so this one's got a lot of orange, so you can see the fabric that I lined this cover with. It's got some discoloration and stuff, but you know, that's just how it was. You know, it wasn't dirty. It just got discolored. And if you watch the haul video when I was going through that fabric, you'll see it in there. It did get discolored they probably stored it in a cardboard box or something. So see, just these little types of pamphlets. I added one into each journal. So yeah, so there's some more of that orange one. But yeah, so you can see, and this is the envelope from the pattern. I'm not going to do a complete flip through, but just to give you an idea, you know, like the inside cover and stuff on each one. And then it's a few different bingo cards too that I printed off. They were public domain bingo cards, you know, I think maybe from Graphics Fairy or something. I can't remember. So yeah, so this one's kind of orangey, right? And then obviously elastic closure on each journal. I kind of went back and forth about that, but I decided that is just really the best way to close this type of journal, in my opinion. So this one, her name is Blanche. This one is for Blanche. Okay, and then this is for Gertrude. Goldia plays bridge with Gertrude, and they like to be partners. They can sort of like read each other's minds, you know. So this one's got kind of a teal inside fabric, and then I love this this diamond pattern. It's so pretty. So they kind of have this, like, you know, they're kind of bowed a little bit since they've been wrapped around the journal for a couple of days now. They've sort of gotten into this shape where they're sort of like bowed in, right? But you know, they're flexible, so you know, they won't stay that way. You can bend them back out, you know. But yeah, so but it'll take forever if I was going to flip through all of these. But I just really loaded up these envelopes, the little pocket on the front, with just all kinds of little teeny tiny things. I love all those little teeny tiny things. So this one's got this pamphlet in it. Just recipes. This is a French fry bag. Oh, here's the back of that one. Okay. Yeah, so this is Gertrude, or it's for Gertrude, I should say. And then, so this one is for Audrey, and it's a Henkel's flower pamphlet, and it's got, you know, the same stuff on the front. So this is Goldia right there. Wait, there's the camera. Why am I so far away? This is Goldia right here on the far right. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, so this one has the teal fabric again on the inside. And then I used a lot of like flashcards and stuff that I've been hoarding that I haven't wanted to share. I'm just saying. And a lot of actual ephemera, you know, like in some of the larger journals, I did use some letters, some like hand addressed stamped letters, you know, and with the postage and stuff on them, like from the late 1800s, or excuse me, early 1900s, some of them. And then I printed off some of those seed packs a little bit smaller. Gosh, I just love that feed sack fabric. It's so yummy. And then I have a bunch of these little covers from these little Whitman Tiny Tales books. So I thought, you know, if you're into journaling or whatever, into making junk journals and stuff, you could totally make yourself a little mini journal in that. And I just thought, I'm never going to make them, so why not share them? So I think I had like 4 of them. And so some of these have one of those in them. And then I did have some little tags that I had made out of file folders. I had a few left over, so I just added a couple here and there. And then there's the jeweler's envelope. I was really carrying on about that, hiring people in the community and all that. I have a tendency to get a little crazy with my imaginings. Birds, order forms, butter, you know. And oh, this is a divider from one of the 3-ring or the 5-ring binders. This is one of the dividers. So yeah. So this one, oh, and then there's this one pamphlet. It's like, where do we get our food and stuff? And so some of these smaller ones have pages from that book, and it looks like a vintage reader, you know. There's the front back, or the inside back cover. Okay, so this is Audrey, or for Audrey. I gotta get with it. And then this one is for Georgia. Georgia's really sweet. Georgia's in the quilting club, quilting bee, I guess it's called. But she likes to read, so there's a library card in here and that kind of thing. And Georgia was also a school teacher, so she appreciates this kind of stuff. And so she's got a couple of extra little mini flashcards, little mini bingo card. Yeah. So this one, there's the inside back cover. Okay. And, you know, I did take 10 photos of each journal, and, you know, so you can definitely, hang on just a second. This goes the other way. You can move this button around. You can move it to different positions. I just like to have a button on there because I think it helps to like grab the elastic to pull it off for some reason. That seems to help. Okay, so this one is for Betty. And Betty is also in the Bridge Club. And Betty likes to travel quite a bit. So there's some travel ephemera in this one. So this is just a little pamphlet about, you know, what to do when you're coming back from another country, how to deal with customs. And some more sewing ephemera. So here's another page from that, Where We Get Our Food book. It was a little pamphlet. Sugarcane. So just really fun, colorful, you know, just super, super junky, upcycling, repurposing, just all kinds of stuff. Like this is just all kinds of stuff that I love, you know, and I just wanted to go nuts and put everything I like in a journal. So these are some old photo envelopes that, like, if you took your film to Walgreens to have it developed and printed, this is the envelope that you would get back with your pictures in it. And there's a bunch of like, I put some more receipts and guest checks inside of there. So yeah. And some pink rickrack on this one. And see, this one has that maple syrup pamphlet that's added in. So I wanted to add an extra pamphlet because I wanted you to have a whole one, like, you know, and just in case you're into like art journaling and stuff like that, like if you just want to use the imagery and stuff. So that one is for Betty. This one is for Sophia. And Sophia loves orange and purple. So this is the inside of this one. And I went through my scrapbook papers. For some reason, like I always forget that I have scrapbook paper. I don't know why, but I just forget that it's even there sometimes. And I reorganized like my whole studio, I don't know, 6-7 months ago, and moved my desk around and stuff. And I had put all my like offcuts of scrapbook paper in this one drawer of a filing cabinet, and I totally forgot that it was even there. Like the whole entire drawer full of paper, and it's full of paper. I totally forgot it was even there. Well, I found it the other day. Anyway, so I'm trying to use that paper. And then this is actually, these envelopes, each journal has one of these envelopes in the center. And I don't know if you can see, but this is actually an onion skin envelope. Okay, so these are old. These envelopes are old. But they're real sturdy still. They're in good shape, but they're lined with this really pretty flower print paper. And anyway, so I just put one in the center of each journal. These are super special to me, you guys. I'm just saying. But I'm trying to not like hoard stuff. Anyway, so this is obviously another envelope that you would get like your negatives in if you were having so that was like from a 2x3, like a view camera medium format film was in this envelope. Anyway, so I'm just gonna quit rambling. But yeah, these were really fun to make, you guys. And I loved, see, here's one of those letters. So I don't even know like what's in it, but the letter is still in there. So it's from the Northern Pacific Railway. They're not like love letters, but I don't know. I just think they're cool. that old ephemera. And then here's a little pamphlet in this one. Arm & Hammer baking soda. Okay. So this one is for, who'd I say? For Sophia. Okay. And then this one, I love this one. I love the colors on this cover. This one is for Maisie. And look, I love the turquoise. So Maisie is, where does she know Maisie from? I can't remember. She told me one time, but I can't remember. So I had a couple of collage tags, like oversized collage tags that, I just didn't have enough to add a big one like this to each journal, but I had a couple, so I put them in the larger journals. And then this is actually like a feed sack, or not a feed sack, like, yeah, I guess it's like a feed sack that I got over Thursday when I took Sammy to school. I drove him over to Seattle, and there's a antique mall that's near oh my God, what's the name of that town? Ellensburg. There's this antique mall and fruit stand. And if you're from Washington and you've ever driven, I-90, you know where I'm talking about. But anyway, so I found this feed sack in there. And so this is part of it. Some more of that, like this mail. I just got to quit hoarding stuff. So I decided I'm going to start sharing it. So that's the bingo card. And then these music flashcards, I just love them. So it's like a note, right? Actually, there's two. You get two in this one. Another pamphlet that I took apart. So yeah, so scrapbook or scrapbook paper. Love this pamphlet. It's so cool. I love pamphlets because they're such I don't know, they're just cool ephemera. And this one is from Tones Spices. So yeah, little pamphlet. And yeah, not much more I can say, but I really, really, really loved making these journals. They're super fun. And I took my time, I wasn't like rushing to get them done or anything like that. I was just really, really taking my time in getting them done. I have a whole bunch of them from this era that are like meat on the cover, like hot dogs or like steak or things like that. But I didn't use any of those because I just think, I don't know. There's a lot of people that I just didn't think it looked great on the cover of a journal. Anyway, so this is for, who's that? Oh, Myra. Yeah, Myra's a sweetheart. You guys would love her. But she's a vegetarian, so that's why I used this cover for her. Or why Goldia did. Anyway. See, maybe next time I'll stay in character a little bit better. But that's, it's just so fun to think about, like, developing a character that, you can sort of act out. And lots of people that make junk journals do like concept journals. And I just always think that it's really fun. It's just really kind of different and just sort of spurs your imagination a little bit more while you're working too. So, we'll get to know Goldia a little bit better as the years go by, hopefully, So here's the inside cover and the back. This one. And there's some more of that sun-kissed lemon. This is the lemon one. Okay. So this one is for Myra. My ring, the elastic gets caught on my rings all the time. I'm trying to make sure I'm not showing you guys one that I already showed. So this one is for Lucille. Okay. And I just thought, Lucille Ball kind of, because this sort of reminded me of Lucille Ball. Anyways, and the white and red. So this one on the inside, kind of a white and green sort of color scheme, I guess. Use a little bit more out of that one book. Fabric tabs, wallpaper, pink, more pink. Little flashcards. So this is actually like a little tiny tuck spot. Like you could tuck a little ticket in there or something if you wanted to. More feed sack on this tag. I love that feed sack. I just love those little hexes. I'm just using them for all kinds of stuff lately. All right. So this is for, who'd I say? Lucille. Right. Okay. And there's the back. I guess I didn't show you the back on all of those, but God, they just feel so cool. Like, I love the way, like, file folder journals and stuff, I love the way they feel in your hands. So let me just pull out these 3, 4, 5. Okay. So there's two that are kind of like oversized. They're much bigger. And it's this one and this one. So the one for Jeannie is, I love this little girl on the front. She's so cute with her little baby cow here, with her little cow. Hang on. Let's see if I can flip through here. So here's the inside cover of this one. See, it's considerably larger. And I didn't even realize that it was that much bigger when I pulled it to make it. So it's 9.5 tall and like 6.25 wide, you know? So as opposed to like this one is 8 inches tall and 5.25 wide. So, so a lot more, you know, in these. So this one's got, a letter, vintage old letter, some postage, and more of the lemon. So it's just bigger stuff, you know, and more pages. There's more pages in these larger ones. So I think in the listing, I don't think I changed the number of pages in each listing for each journal, because I said approximately. So because I never count pages, but like if you really want to know how many pages are in a journal, just ask me, you know, send me a message and I'll actually count them for you if you want. Yeah, so these were just super, super, super fun. But I was done. Like, I'm done with them. I was ready to get done with them when I got done. There was some other stuff that I was thinking about doing, but I just thought, no, Jessica, stop it. Stop yourself. Check yourself. So there's the back. Oh, I love this one because it has that calendar on the back. 1955. So these are so sturdy, you guys. They really, really are. So this is the other one that's a little bit larger too. So this is for Constance. And yeah, God, they're just so cool. Sometimes I wish I could sometimes I wish I was into journaling, because I do get good ideas about things that you could do in these sometimes, but I don't know. I just can't get into it for some reason. I always think I'm going to, and then I just don't. So anyways, lots of cooking pages in this one. I love that scrapbook paper. And you know, where it was kind of oversized, I just made it into a pocket. Lots of goodies in these, you guys, and lots of embellishing, like a lot more than I normally do. And I used to, you know, when I first started making junk journals, I was a lot more into like embellishing pages and stuff. And I kind of got away from it for a number of reasons, but I really wanted to kind of do that again in these. So just to make them a little bit extra special. So anyway, so this is the other larger one, and this one is for Constance. And then this one, the Book of Cookies, this one is for Delilah. And Delilah has a sweet tooth, so I thought that was perfect for her. And she's got a little letter in there and a little book plate, printout. This one's got order blank. Oh, I thought it was the pamphlet. Never mind. And then I just used little hexes here and there in some of the journals too. Not even as tabs, but just around on the pages. And I did put a lot of glassine bags in these too. I forgot to mention that. I glued in like 6 or 7 little flat bags in a lot of these to make pockets, instead of making pockets out of you know, other stuff. I just glued in like paper bags and stuff. Or not glued in. I used my tape runner. It works pretty good, actually. All right, what's going on here? Oh, there. Okay. And then there's an envelope flip out in each one also. Oh, look at this flashcard. Aren't these cool? I got these big oversized flashcards. So, yep, trying to use up stuff, guys. That's what I was trying to do here. Use up a bunch of stuff. So, and share stuff that I really like. I have panic attacks when I think about, you know, what if I run out of that, you know? Anyways, so this one is for Florence. And this is one of the oldest ones. This is one of the oldest pamphlets. Don't remember the year, but I do remember that this one was one of the oldest ones. These are, they just feel so cool. So I love that turquoise contrasting with the yellow. Some of the orange and the envelope and the pattern envelope. Little tag or label. Another pamphlet on customs. Flowery stuff. Recipe stuff. There's a little flip out with some ephemera. And it says Mama. And then I, you know, put stuff in here in the envelope. You know what I'm saying. So when you're making 16 journals all at the same time and you've decided that you really want to get more into embellishing, it definitely takes a lot longer. So, yeah, so these are a lot more time intensive than some of the other journals that I've made recently. Just because there's just so much stuff in them, you know. And I used a lot of original ephemera too. A lot of it's printed, some of it's printed, but there's a lot of like actual ephemera in these too. So this one is for Clarice. And doesn't that remind you of Silence of the Lambs? But I thought it was a pretty name. So this one is just really super colorful. There's just all kinds of stuff in it, and it's sort of all over the place. It's sort of crazy. Clarice is sort of nutso. So coffee jello. Wow, that's weird. Anyway, so this little jello pamphlet in here, and that's old. And each one's got a popcorn bag, and you know, I printed like the grid papers because these are grid papers that I had, and I only had like 10 sheets of them or something, and so I scanned them just to make sure I never ran out of them. And they were, you know, old to begin with, so yeah. I love the colors in this one, the red and yellow. Okay, so that one is for Clarice. And I'm going to publish this video. I don't know. This is right at about 53 minutes right now. So I'll get this video published. These are already listed in my shop. And by the time this video uploads, they will already be there. And what I'm thinking I'll do is I'll try to update the description on the video to tell you which ones are left. Okay. I'll list all the names of the journals so that you can see if the one that you like is still available in the description. I'll try to update that like throughout the day tomorrow and stuff. But also with each one, with each journal, and I haven't finished these all the way yet. I haven't finished them all. But I made 16 little mini journals too, that I was going to put them in the journals, but they got a little bit bigger than I kind of expected. So you're going to get one of these little mini journals too. Each one gets one. Okay. So it's just a little like, vintage, like thread label that I stitched on the front on real heavy cardstock. This is that cardstock from Hobby Lobby. It's so thick. I love it. It's just awesome for, it's really hard to, it won't go through my printer though. I don't know. I can't get it to work in my printer. At least not my laser printer. The inkjet, I might be able to get it to work in there, but it won't work in either of the laser printers. Anyway, so what I'm doing is just adding the eyelets. This is the only one that's actually like done. But so they all have a little elastic closure with a vintage button. And then I'm adding an eyelet. I'm not putting charms on them. This is basically how they're going to be. Just like that. Okay. And there's like 24 pages or something inside. And then there's also like a little pocket. So if you are getting one of these journals to give as a gift, keep this for yourself, or, this could be a good stocking stuffer. So I just put my little card in the pocket inside the journal. Okay. So there we go. All right, you guys. Thank you for watching. Thanks for putting up with my blabbering and all my weird, make-believe stuff. It's fun though. Anyways, I love you guys. And yeah, come get them. Here they are. They're all ready. And yeah, I was really excited about these. I hope you can tell. Yeah. Especially since I'm missing Sammy. Took Sammy gone to college. So I've got a bit of empty nest syndrome going on. So yeah, I know a lot of you guys can relate. Anyway, okay. Love you. Talk to you later. Talk to you soon. Okay. Bye for now.